Before we married, Colin told me he wanted something quiet. Not flashy, he said. Just real. That's what I thought I was getting. Something real. We tied the knot 5 years ago at a hilltop lodge near Santa Fe, surrounded by piñon trees and amber skies. Small, personal. No tuxedos, no dramatic vows, no hired string quartet. Just our families, a warm breeze, and a promise whispered over glasses of local wine. He told me he couldn't wait to start a family. I told him I wanted to keep working. We agreed we'd figure it out together. Back then, figuring things out meant compromise. Now, it feels like I'm the only one compromising. I'm 34 now, still working full-time as a project manager for a nonprofit literacy program. Colin does marketing for a regional outdoor gear chain. We live in Eureka Springs, in a small 2-bedroom rental perched above what used to be our favorite bookstore, back when things still felt romantic. 2 months ago, I found out I was pregnant. It started with faint dizziness, irritability, an odd craving for crushed ice, and a metallic taste that lingered no matter what I ate. I blamed it on stress, but after skipping 2 cycles, I knew. I took the test on a Sunday morning while Colin made pancakes. When I showed him the result, he blinked, then grinned, then spun me around the kitchen like we were teenagers. "We're really doing this," he said, forehead pressed to mine. For 1 solid week, he was the husband every woman dreams of. He picked up saltine crackers and lemon drops without being asked. He sat through my first prenatal appointment, held my hair while I threw up between Zoom meetings, and told his coworkers, proudly, that he was going to be a dad. But by week 3, something in his tone changed. He started tracking how often I complained, frowned when I skipped dinner, rolled his eyes when I fell asleep at 7 p.m. "It's just nausea, Madison," he muttered one evening. "Not terminal cancer." I was lying on the couch, clutching a heat pack to my stomach. "I'm doing everything I can," I said softly. He didn't look at me. My mom was running a daycare when she was pregnant. She never made it everyone else's problem. That was the first time he used her as a measuring stick. It wouldn't be the last. By the 5th week, I was barely surviving the workday. I vomited during calls, had to sit on the floor of the shower, and could no longer tolerate even the smell of coffee. Water tasted like metal. The fridge became a chamber of horrors. Colin stopped cooking for me. He microwaved meals for himself and left the dishes behind. I asked if he could help with laundry. "You're home earlier than me," he said, scrolling his phone. "You have time." "I come home and lie on the floor, Colin." He didn't look up. "Maybe if you pushed through it, you'd get your energy back. It's all mental, right?" The worst moment came late one evening. I was brushing my teeth upstairs. His voice floated up from the vent in the hallway. "She says she's sick, but I don't buy it. Skipping chores, skipping meals. It's too convenient," I froze. He was talking to his mother, Patricia. She and I had always kept things civil, the kind of civility that feels like a chess match. She'd never raised her voice at me, but the comments were always there, wrapped in polite tones and tight smiles. "Oh, you're still working? I didn't think women today wanted kids anymore. Must be nice to afford takeout all the time." A few days later, my symptoms got even worse. I hadn't eaten all day. The nausea was constant, my limbs like lead, and I couldn't get warm. I'd been curled on the bathroom floor most of the afternoon, forehead pressed to the cool tile, holding a bucket I didn't have the strength to use. I tried opening an electrolyte drink, but my hands were trembling too badly to grip the cap. I felt myself slipping, physically, mentally, and I knew I needed help. I reached for my phone. My plan was simple. Call Colin, beg him to take me to the hospital for fluids. An IV might help. My thumb slid across the screen. I mistapped. Somewhere, a call began to ring, but I didn't realize it wasn't him. Then the bathroom door creaked open. Colin stepped in and looked down at me like I was a problem left on the floor. "Seriously?" he said. "You're still like this?" "It's bad today," I whispered. "Please, take me to the hospital. I can't even keep water down." He leaned against the frame, arms crossed. "Enough with the performance, Madison. Morning sickness isn't a disease. I've got plans tonight. Don't drag me into your drama." I blinked up at him, stunned. "I'm not performing," I managed. "I'm asking for help." He let out a short, cold laugh. "If you can't handle a little nausea, maybe you're not ready to be a mom. Do whatever you want. Just don't ruin my night." He turned and left, letting the door swing closed behind him. I didn't see that my phone was still in my hand. I didn't hear the tiny voice on the other end. My father, confused by the accidental call, listening in growing horror as my husband berated his daughter and walked away. I tried to stand up. My legs buckled. "Colin!" I tried to call out again, but my throat gave nothing. Just a soft rasp. The phone slipped from my fingers and hit the tile with a clatter. A tidal wave of nausea pulled me under. My forehead struck the floor. Cold. So cold. My vision closed inward, like a tunnel collapsing. My last coherent thought wasn't about myself. It was about the baby inside me. Small. Quiet. Alone. And then, nothing. The next thing I felt was light, cold, white light pressing against my eyelids, and something soft beneath me. Beeping. Then a voice. "She's waking up." I blinked, and the world reassembled. A hospital ceiling, the faint sting of an IV in my arm, and my mom's tear-blurred face hovering just above. "Oh my God," I whispered. "What?" "You passed out," she said. "In the bathroom." At home, I sat up too quickly. The dizziness rushed back. My dad stepped forward, calmer but pale. "Maddie, you accidentally called us." We heard. Everything he said. My phone. I must have fumbled it when I tried to call Colin, and instead I'd called my parents. "I didn't know I'd hit your number," I said weakly. "I was trying to—" Dad held up a hand. "You don't have to explain." "We came straight over. Found you unconscious. Colin wasn't there." Of course he wasn't. He'd left me, pregnant, sick, unable to stand, to go wine and dine the girl his mother had handpicked to replace me. I felt my throat burn. He didn't even check. My mom shook her head slowly. He was out. Phone off. Didn't return our calls until 2 this morning. The nurse came in then, and I closed my eyes while they took vitals. The baby, miraculously, was fine. I was severely dehydrated, malnourished, and dangerously exhausted, but stable. I was told to remain on fluids overnight. Later that morning, after I forced down some juice, I opened my email on my mom's phone and showed both of them the screenshots, the texts, the dinner with Emily, the suggestion to push me toward filing for divorce, the commentary about how I was too old, too lazy, too much trouble. My mother said nothing, just stared at the screen with her lips pursed tight. My father scrolled silently, then handed the phone back. He looked me in the eye and said, "We're going to talk to him." And his parents' Colin finally showed up the next morning, right before I was discharged. He strolled in with a bag of crackers and that signature smirk that had once passed for charm. "There she is. You gave everyone a scare, huh? Hospital seems like overkill, but hey, better safe than sorry." He dropped the crackers on the side table like a prize. I didn't say a word. My mom stood up and stepped between us. "I already called your employer," she said. "They've been informed that Madison will be taking medical leave." Starting tomorrow, Colin blinked. "Wait, what? You're seriously taking time off?" "Doctor's orders," she replied, "and I made sure to have it in writing." He laughed under his breath. "Wow, so this is really happening, huh? Pregnant one day, full-time invalid the next." "Do you even hear yourself?" I snapped. My voice cracked. Colin just shrugged. "I mean, she's not exactly holding it together." I turned my head away. I didn't trust myself not to scream. The OB came in shortly after to go over follow-up instructions. She was gentle, efficient, and kind. "She needs rest. Limited stress, gentle movement only. And she needs proper meals, hydration, and support." Then the doctor looked directly at Colin. "You're her husband?" He nodded slowly. "Unfortunately, yes. She needs you. That means help with food, cleaning, stress management, everything." He laughed. "Come on, Doc. It's just morning sickness. You can't expect me to play maid over a little nausea." There was a silence so sharp, it felt like something snapped. The doctor didn't argue. She turned to me and handed me a printout. "If anything worsens, come back immediately." That evening, we drove to Colin's parents' house. I didn't want to, but Dad insisted. "We confront this as adults," he said. "No screaming. No accusations. Just truth." The house was nestled in a quiet suburb outside Traverse City, overly manicured and soulless. The kind of place where everything looked like it came from a catalog. Robert, Colin's father, answered the door. He looked genuinely concerned. "Madison, I heard you weren't well. Are you feeling better?" "Getting there," I said, forcing a smile. Patricia and Colin were already seated in the living room, sipping tea. Her lips curled in a tight smile when she saw me. "Glad to see you're up." Colin was so worried my mom sat down across from her, perfectly still. "Were you?" she asked Colin. He didn't respond. My dad cleared his throat. "We'd like to discuss a few things. Mainly, the things Colin and Patricia have been planning behind our daughter's back." Patricia straightened, icy. "Excuse me?" I took out a manila folder, printed screenshots, laid them neatly on the coffee table. "I thought you might prefer hard copies," I said. Robert picked them up. His hands began to tremble. As he flipped through, his face turned a shade redder with each page. "You invited Emily to dinner," he finally barked. "To replace your pregnant wife?" Patricia opened her mouth. "It was just a casual get-together." "Don't exaggerate." "Oh, and the part where you call me lazy? Or where you call my baby a burden?" I asked. That was a private conversation," she hissed. "With my husband," I snapped, "while I was in bed vomiting and fainting." Patricia turned to Colin, flustered. "Say something." He looked straight at me. "You know what? Fine. I was going to wait. But yes, I want a divorce. I plan to file next week. I'll cite irreconcilable differences. You don't cook, you don't clean, and you're a liability now." Nobody moved. Colin leaned back like he'd dropped some mic. "I want out." "I want to marry Emily. She's sweet, cooperative, and she doesn't make every day a crisis." Patricia reached for his arm. "Colin." "No, I'm saying it. I'm done pretending. I shouldn't have to carry dead weight." I stood up. My chair scraped the floor. My heart beat so loud it drowned the silence. Across the room, Robert's face turned dark. "I see," he said. "Well, then we have quite a bit to talk about." Robert was the kind of man who spoke slowly, deliberately, the kind of man whose silence made you sweat. So when he told us, "We'll talk later," I knew it was over for Colin and Patricia. My parents and I left that night without another word. No one tried to stop us. I moved back into my childhood home. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. My mother cooked eggs in the morning like she used to, and my father left the newspaper folded beside my tea. It was almost enough to make me feel safe, until the guilt kicked in. I shouldn't have needed rescuing. I shouldn't have let it get that far. And yet, I had. It was the baby that kept me anchored. Knowing she was still growing inside me, still fighting, gave me something to focus on beyond the betrayal. A few days after the confrontation, my father sat at the dining table with his laptop open. "I spoke with Robert," he said. "Divorce proceedings will begin immediately. No resistance." He slid over a folder. Inside, a full draft agreement, property division, no contest, custody, full, mine, child support arranged. "I thought it might be harder," I whispered. "It would have been," he said, "if Robert hadn't taken over." That's when he told me what I didn't know. Robert had gone back to Colin's workplace to speak with HR, not just as a father, but as a business partner. Turns out, they were joint investors. And what he found there made everything worse. Colin hadn't just belittled me. He'd been doing the same to pregnant women at work, mocking them behind their backs, assigning them physical tasks they weren't medically cleared for, whispering things like, "If you can't carry a box, what are you even doing here? Must be nice to get a full salary just for being sick." Several employees had already reported him. One had even recorded him. "He was disciplined by HR last week," my dad said, "and this morning, he was terminated." I felt no vindication, just sadness, exhaustion. Colin tried to contact me 2 days later, a wall of texts. I didn't know what I was doing. I was manipulated. I was just tired. "Please forgive me. I'll be better. I'll be a dad. I'll step up." But I remembered the words that broke me. "Maybe you're not ready to be a mom. Do whatever you want. Just don't ruin my night. If she can't clean, she shouldn't have a baby. You don't come back from that." I didn't reply. Emily, for her part, turned out to be just another casualty. Robert later told me she'd met with him privately, shocked, embarrassed, and disgusted. She hadn't even known Colin was still married. Patricia had told her I'd already moved out and wanted nothing to do with the baby. "She asked me to meet for dinner," Emily told Robert. "Said it was to give advice. I didn't know it was a setup. I don't want anything to do with any of you." Apparently, Emily had never idolized Patricia. In fact, she barely remembered her from high school. Patricia had built the entire fantasy in her own head. The fallout was swift. Colin moved back into his parents' house, now jobless, his phone buzzing with ignored recruiters and old college friends who needed space. Robert reportedly kept him on a short leash, making him repay every cent of my settlement from his own pocket, in monthly installments, garnished from whatever temp work he could find. Patricia, meanwhile, became persona non grata at her school. Rumors about the Emily incident spread like wildfire. Not just the dinner, but the manipulation, the ambition, the cruelty toward her pregnant daughter-in-law. She denied everything, of course. Claimed I had exaggerated. But once you lose your moral shine, it's hard to get it back. She wasn't fired, but she might as well have been. When my daughter was born, a perfect, wiggly, red-faced girl with thick dark hair and lungs that could shake windows, I cried harder than I ever had in my life. We named her June. She came into the world quietly, then roared. Robert asked to see her. He sent a letter first. Not a text, not a voicemail. A real letter. Handwritten, stamped, delivered. I know I've failed you, Madison. I failed to protect you from the people in my own home. But if you'll let me see my granddaughter, even once, I will consider it the greatest grace I've ever received. I agreed. Quietly. Privately. One visit. He came alone. No camera, no pictures, just his hands trembling as he held her. He looked at June like she was made of light. I won't take any photos, he promised. If I did, I'd stare at them too long, and they'd notice. I can't risk that he didn't stay long. But before he left, I snapped a photo of him holding her. For me, not him. I plan to print it someday. Maybe I'll give it to her when she's old enough to ask about where she came from. Colin tried again. This time with threats wrapped in pity. I'm paying child support. I have rights. You can't keep her from me. You're punishing me more than I deserve. But the court documents were clear. No visitation. His rights had been severed by mutual agreement in exchange for financial leniency and peace, and I had no intention of reopening that door. Still, I'd be lying if I said I didn't question myself. Was I stealing her chance at a father? Was I letting my anger outweigh what she might someday need? I brought this to my mother. She didn't answer right away. She poured coffee, sat across from me, then asked, Do you think Colin is the kind of man who'd step between your daughter and danger? Do you trust him to put her first when he didn't put you first while she was inside you? I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because I already knew.